the journey. So the path of getting more and more clear on your purpose and your mission is quite the endeavor. So, and it's a very unique journey as well. So what I'm going to do here is show you how my journey coincided with the color scale so you can feel each different stage. And that's really the goal here, is because we're branching out into new territory here, because as of right now, the stages of the color scale isn't talked about. Like, so there's a lot of gaps out in the marketplace of what happens on this journey of connecting to your purpose. So it's one thing to understand it. The goal of this video is to feel it, and to feel the different stages and have reference points so that you can understand which each one feels like, the focus of each stage, so that you can more accurately connect to the stage that you're at in the color scale and know what's next. And so you can see an example of how a purpose becomes more clear and clear over time, and how it's evolving to being more and more clear. So let's get into it. Because what this is going to do is show you two things. So number one, the journey of aligning the head, heart, and stomach neurons, and how the business goes through different modes based on which set of neurons are leading the business at that specific time. So in practical, when the business is in practical mode, the stomach neurons are leading the way. I mean, it's got to be there's no business without getting practical, getting into the work, getting into the realness of it. And then how, when the business goes into profit mode on the top, how the brain neurons are more leading the way of like, okay, how can we orchestrate this for greater leverage, greater value with less resources? And how, when the heart is leading it, how the business is in purpose mode. And ultimately want to go through each of these stages and then merge them together when the business is in masterpiece mode, where all of these are working together to move the business forward with purpose, passion, and profit. And we'll also take a look at how that coincides with the color scale, and how each of these modes that the business is in typically corresponds with a certain color on the scale. So let's take a look. So for me, pay the bills business, 19 to 20 years old. That was the period of my life during that time, and that was in the red. So it was very practical mode. It was like, okay, what can we do here to make money and get a business going? That was the thing, is I didn't, it was really about getting a business going. So the quote for this stage of life is, I need to drop out and I can't tell my parents. Because that's what I did. I realized that, why am I spending money to pay these college professors when they're not living the life that I want to have? Why don't I pay people who have the life I have and learn from them? That was the idea. So I was on a plane flight back to the University of Minnesota, July 2011. And that's when I had this epiphany. I was like, man, I just got to start this business. I got to go for it now. And I was just leaving a mastermind that Roland Frazier was hosting. Interesting note, he would later become a partner in the $100 million company called Digital Marketing. And so that was the point where I was at this mastermind, and I was like, okay. And I had a blog before then, so I was learning different things, and I was putting my content out there. Nobody was really seeing it at all, but there I was. And as I was at this mastermind, and it was probably like 12 people there, and a lot of people that have been making money online for many years and making a lot of money online, hundreds of thousands of dollars, some of them over $1 million and plus. And I remember I was there and I was teaching them certain things, just like side by side, as showing them different things, not speaking or anything, but just as a participant, sharing different things. And I remember that it dawned on me. I was like, wow, they're making a ton of money. I'm making nothing. What's the difference here? And I have value to share with them. What's the difference? And I thought, well, on that plane flight back, I thought, okay, well, they got started and I haven't. So I just got to get started. Like, enough endlessly learning and waiting to perfect things. I got to get moving. So that's what I did. Started the business. I pulled out $5,000 from my investment. Unfortunately, I invested in SiriusXM when I was 17. I put pretty much everything I had of my money that I had earned from refereeing and umpiring, which is around $2,000, and it grew to 22,000 plus. So I pulled out there the 5K, and I was going to college at this time. It was after my first year, and So I just went for it. I moved back in on campus. Like I didn't tell my parents, like it says here in the quote, because I knew they wouldn't understand. And I was like, I just need to do this. So I was going door to door. I was hustling. I was trying these different business ideas. Some of them were working a little bit. Got my first check. That was a big thing. But ultimately, it wasn't enough to pay the bills. And the money just kept dwindling more and more and more. And so you can really see it was about practical motive. Like, how can I just even get something started? And I got to the point where there was $14 in my account. I broke down, fell alone. Felt like I went to my car. I was just bawling my eyes out, and I was waiting for that moment when, you know, in movies where like the clouds part, when you have your breakdown moment, the clouds part, and then there's like a voice that, you know, says it's going to be okay, or there's a sign or something. Then you're like, oh, okay, that's what it is. So I was bawling my eyes out in my car. I was like, I'm gonna have to sell my car. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do for rent. I was too embarrassed to tell any of my friends, and then I was like sobbing there, and then I was like waiting for the cloud to part. So I waited for the sign, and then what I heard was nothing. I didn't hear anything. And I was like, at my mind back in that time, I thought, oh, wow, okay, I really am alone. There's nothing out in the world, and it's just my mind and just my tenacity to make it happen. That's where I was. So, of course, now, future version of myself, I know that there's so much support for us in the unseen realms, but it's just at that point I couldn't feel it. I couldn't sense the spirit guys. I couldn't sense the different layers of support in the unseen. I didn't have the spiritual connection. I was numb to it. So back then, okay, that's all I had was myself. So I remember I went in and shook. I didn't even go to sleep that night. I was just trying different things, shook deals up, and ended up going back part time for a semester later on, and started getting things moving where we were selling some things. And then really it started going into profit mode. Okay, with the head. So part two of Pay the Bills Business Still, 21 years old. The quote here is, holy shit, I just made $1,000 today, and I've been partying with my friends all day. And that's what happened. Out of the many things I was trying, ranking things online, like SEO, it just started clicking. And I had a $1,000 passive income day where, you know, the videos were just selling a product, information product, and those are my commissions. So that was when I was 20. And that really opened my mind of like, okay, now we can really go into profit mode and let's grow and build it. And its highest week was up to $2,500 a week in passive income. Later on, I ended up winning a young entrepreneurship scholarship because I was building an academy of sorts. Really, an earlier version of Decode Your Genius. I mean, it's interesting. Like the drive was there the whole time, but I just didn't. I wasn't the person that I needed to be, and then also the information wasn't there, but the drive was. So I ended up winning a young entrepreneurship scholarship through Maverick Next, which changed my life. Shout out to Maverick Next and the Mavericks. Worked with a marketing advisor who had taught me different things, and I went in ego mode for many years. We grew the web design company 10x our revenue in 9 months, and it was just all about ego. And you've heard my story before on that. So we even got clients paying up to 22.5 grand a month. Team grew to 25 full-time members. Had an opportunity to go through the Genius Path and through Nicholas and Joseph, and I said, okay, you know, that looks great, that's interesting, but I'll focus on that when I'm rich. And I turned it down. You know, I just kept focusing and putting in 100-hour work weeks, just grinding forward. But lo and behold, the business started imploding. And so once that happened, you know the story, moved back to my mom's house, which to a boy with an ego, which I definitely was, that was just like, knife in the chest. And that's when things have been collapsing. And, you know, I was laying in the fetal position, feeling suicidal at the lowest point. And that's when my purpose started emerging. And the reason why I'm telling you this, because that's when a bit of the yellow, a bit of the green started coming in. Because at that point, it was just about me, me, me. It was just, yeah, I wanted to help our clients. We were doing that. Yet probably and we did that. It's just the main driver was for me to get the things I wanted, me to get the respect I wanted, me to get those things. So when I had those things stripped away after having them, then the energy of my purpose came through. And I realized, okay, there wasn't, you know, all that stuff doesn't even matter. Like, what's the thing that I'm truly here for? And that's where it clicked. Nothing else mattered more than my mission. So I started following that feeling, as you know, and that started leading a new chapter of purpose mode coming into my business of like, okay, what's the mission here? And so then stepping stone business started to emerge, and that's 22, 25 years old. And the quote here is, wow, the 4-hour work week is real. So because this is what happened on the SEO company that I built afterwards, that's what I got it to. But before that, I began training with Nicholas, rebuilding my life, going through his trainings, going through the light body activations, which I didn't even know what they meant. I just felt the pull to go through them. And now I know they started aligning the head neurons, the heart neurons, the stomach neurons to work together. Back then, I don't even know. And the word was so esoteric and hard to understand, I just knew that I had to do them. And an interesting thing is that after the second one, I got the idea, which led to my SEO business being built. And that's what gave me the 4-hour work week. So I quickly built that with partners, with joint venture partners, up to multiple six figures, and the 4 hours. And I knew I didn't want to scale the business like a prison before. So I knew like we had one type of the model that was really easy and simple, rank and rent. The other type was where we were doing a lot of client work. And I didn't want to build another business where we were just doing all this client work again. So we grew it to this point and kind of allowed each of us to explore and do our own things. And that's where I went on Maverick trips. I explored things with Nicholas, and again, shout out to Yannick Silver and the Maverick entrepreneurs. They had a huge influence on me because Yannick was always talking about, okay, what's the evolved enterprise? What's the impact component? How is this helping the world? How are you making money and also doing it to make a difference? I was constantly how I was growing up in business through these formative years, and that really helped mold the purpose and keep fostering that, because it was an environment of like, okay, what's the real mission here? And so I studied even more intensely, went through the different trainings. And so while you're going through the purpose mode, it's really the time to like really connect deeply, go through these different trainings, go through the things that really are about cause and purpose, and help bring that out of you. So for me, in total, I ended up going over 12 plus trainings throughout the years with Nicholas, with Joseph, and learning how to use energy in the coherence field, how to take people through the light body activations, how to read the genius path, all these different things, how to guide people through shadow work, how to speed up shadow work. And as I was going through this, I became the youngest and the fastest to progress up the training scale. And I just was like a voracious appetite. Like once I felt that, I was like, this is it. I don't even know what I'm going to do with this, but I know I have to go through this. And lo and behold, that's what would provide the foundation for the business to go into green. Because all of this, what I learned there during those building blocks, I didn't know what I would apply it to. And that's really what I emphasize with people, is that sometimes you don't know what it is, but you can feel the passion, the fire that like, I got to go through this. And if I wouldn't have gone through that, Decode Your Genius would have taken, if it would have happened at all, it would have taken decades longer. Because those are the fundamental building blocks, which then I would take to innovate and bring into the business world. So Stepping Stone Business Part 2, the quote is, how do I make sure I don't back down from the mission I've been given? So as I was going through the light body surgeon training, so learning how to take people through the activations, which was a 2-year training, and twice a year I'd go to London for 2 weeks each time. So it's basically spending a month in London, cumulative time for each year. And as I was going through there, I was sharing the Genius Path stuff. It wasn't called that back. It was originally using its esoteric name of the Soul Contract. And I was just sharing with people because I had free time, and it was what I love to do. And the testimonials started piling up. And what I realized, well, they just started piling up. I was like, wow, okay, this is really something here. So then in purpose mode, I had a key experience on an airplane. Again, go figure. Where I was coming back from a men's workshop experience called the Wild Man, where you're out in nature getting connected to your wild man with other men. And as I was on that plane, something happened that would change my life. So I felt the desire to draw, and shout out to Mavericks again. It was in my Maverick notebook. I just felt the desire to start drawing, and I'm not like a big drawer or anything like that. But my hand just kind of went on autopilot and started going. And after a while, I looked down and there's two distinct symbols there. And they're actually right here. There's that one and there was that one. And I just was like, whoa. So I looked at him and just locked eyes with them for probably a minute, minute and a half. And I couldn't even look away. And then all of a sudden, that's when it happened. I just, boom. And I heard the voice. And it said, the sovereign man, the 6 pillars of royalty, the initiation, the royal brotherhood. And I just felt it. I felt that, like, okay, I need to bring people together to wield power for good and to really make a difference in this world. And I thought to myself, man, how do I make sure I don't back down from this? Like, this is a true mission. How do I make sure that I don't just back down from it? So I thought, well, if I tattoo the symbols on my body, it'd be pretty hard to back down then. Because every day I'll be reminded and I'll see it. So when I got back home from the flight, that's what I did. Is within that week I got them tattooed, one on each shoulder, this one on the right, and this one on the left. And that would form the Sovereign Man chapter of life, of my life. So then that would start leading me into the Forever Business chapter, which the quote is, a new generation of world leaders needs to rise. So the interesting thing is that this is the same direction of global abundance. This is the same thing of bringing our Decode Your Genius community together. Yet it's interesting to me how it's like this was an early phase of it. So, so then I went by a different name. And what I've done specifically with names is I've chosen different names through different stages of my life, bringing in a different middle name, going by like a longer version of the same name, to bring out different aspects of my personality, to focus, whether it's on maturing, whether it's on strength, in terms of like connecting to manhood, like I brought in Michael in the middle name for Archangel Michael. I've gone through this until I was ready to go with Sebastian. So that was a new chapter for me. I ended up moving to a dream house of mine, multi-million-dollar home with other entrepreneur friends in northern San Diego, and I was there for a year as I was doing the Sovereign Man initiations. And these were 3 initiations that built the Royal Brotherhood over a 6-month period. So this was focused on, okay, let's bring people together. Let's take them through the process that I just went through of going through these different initiations for manhood. Because as man, we've got to click certain things in place so that we use power properly instead of letting it create destruction. And that was always a big piece, is like, okay, let's use power for the right reasons and be beneficial to people. So at 25, that's when I met my girlfriend. I moved to Phoenix, and that's where I'm at right now. And the interesting thing is, developing the Royal Brotherhood, the initiation served to get our close-knit group together, and then there's no reason to do it further initiations. So what would happen is I ended up learning, and this still goes to this day, learn key things that would play a role in the global abundance mission that we're on. Number one, really learned how to set up an environment as collaboration as equals, because a lot of masterminds, even now and at that point, then it was all about one person having all the answers, one person who was the star of the show. And this was really innovative of its kind, and still is because it's like, all right, how do we come together where one person has started it, where I'm leading it, yet it's truly like we're sitting around the table as a council and having that mastermind model. And also valuing the differences. So it's like we don't have to be clones of each other, and actually it's best that we aren't. And the speed of honesty. So how to be like, okay, we trust each other. We're on the same mission. So let's just be straight with each other. Let's be like board of advisors. And what that has allowed is faster progress because we're not beating around the bush. And these are all things that now I bring into with our global abundance mission. And what the Royal Brotherhood has done has helped refine the Decode Your Genius platform faster than it ever would have been without it, to get it to a place where it can be in the public. Okay. So Decode Your Genius is born, part 3, 26, 28 years old. So as I was going through this, I realized that the easiest, fastest, and most positive testimonials I ever got in my life would happen when I'm sharing the wisdom that Nicholas and Joseph taught me, which would later be, which we know now is the Genius Path stuff. So I thought, okay, well, I got to put this out in the forefront, because up until that point, it had been this thing that was kind of behind the scenes, and people would go like, "Wow, this is, I didn't even know you did this. Like, this is incredible. Why don't you tell anybody about it?" Well, I didn't tell you because I didn't have the right words to it. It was very esoteric. You know, I didn't know how to describe it. So that's also when I saw that, okay, the light body activations could actually change the world by speeding up the rate that people go up this color scale. And we didn't have the color scale back then to describe it, but I just knew that they were like rocket fuel for raising consciousness. So I thought, okay, there's a lot of problems in the world. Global abundance, that concept wasn't formed yet. But I thought, okay, 1,000 people in light body activations, 100,000, like that'll actually change the world. But at that point, it was just one-on-one sessions. So I had to I didn't know, but I didn't know how to get it more than one-on-one sessions. So I'm like, man, I don't want to be doing that. And that's just way too much. So interesting thing is, like, I began receiving intense vision, like very much intense visions of sharing the tools that work with me with people in like in a leverage and easy way. And these were intense sessions where, I don't know, it's different names for it. You can look at it like a subconscious surge, but it's almost just like just a surge of energy, and there's an information, and you're just typing it down because it's like, wow, where are these coming through? And it's intense. And that's what started happening. In each of those moments, I got different information of how to innovate and pioneer new technology, new systems to get this into the hands of people. And so I launched Decode Your Genius with that. And right after I did, I spoke at Alex Moscow's event of nearly 100 coaches and debuted Decode Your Genius. And that was a big step, because up until then, it didn't have, it was I think it was like Soul Path. It was something with very spiritual, esoteric language. So this was a big step of finding, okay, let's keep what's there, but let's have terms that are more accessible to the business type conversation. And yeah, so I continued to have these intense visions, and they showed me how we could take the 6-month journey. Well, it's really like a 6-year journey of the Lotus Light Body activations, compress it down to 6 months, compress it down to 6 weeks. And that's really what formed the idea of like, okay, wow, if we build the Decode Your Genius platform, people can go through this, and we actually can get hundreds of thousands of people through it and change the world. And that was the beginning. Of course, now we know we can do hundreds of millions. So yeah, so that was the early stages of the light body technology. And then we've got part 3 of Forever Business is global abundance is the mission. So that's the keyword there. And let me just make sure that I'm on the right one. So at 28 years old, so that's where the color scale came in. And as this came in, dramatically simplified things, made things so much easier to understand. And we developed the quiz software to take people through it, upgrade the Genius Path software so that people could get their Genius Path numbers in a more smooth way than it was before. And the global abundance philosophy clarity started coming in, because before it was raising consciousness, it was helping the world. It needed focal point, like a very clear, concrete vision. So once I really realized that that's the mission here, and that's the words for it, that's when I made the big decision to take the course, which was, I made it free. So it used to be $2,500, and that's why I just realized, like, okay, if global abundance is the mission, I got to lead first. I got to lead by example and make this available for whoever, wherever feels the call to go through it. So, and I got that strong guidance that came in from spirit, from subconscious, whichever you want to describe it. There's definitely guidance, and that was during a session that I was delivering for my good friend Crystal Brandt. So shout out, she's a big part of that key pivotal point, and into releasing the 2.0 version and developing software to quantify wisdom. And that's really what we're focused on. In each layer, we're going to get closer and closer to that. And developing the clear, simple plan for global abundance, publishing that. And the next step is to grow the mission. So grow more of the software, develop it to gamify personal development so we can measure and track and improve wisdom, and also the global abundance technology so we can track, measure, and improve each of the global goals on our way to global abundance. And yep, there we go. So this has been a brief recap of my journey through the different stages. And so now looking for yourself, just take note of, okay, which one do you feel that you're at right now, and what's the next one? What things resonated from you, and what things perhaps hopefully filled in the gaps of where you're at right now, and maybe there are certain gaps that you've been feeling, but maybe there hasn't been a good way to describe it or a good reference point. You know, how does that relate to my own journey? And the human brain is phenomenal because once we know what the path is, our brain just optimizes to go down that path. So the biggest thing is just seeing one example of a person going through the path that we want to go to. And of course, there's other people other than me. Yet that was the key thing of this, is like simplify this journey of inner development as well as outer development, building your business. What's that like when it's aligned with your true purpose that is emerging? Because it sure would be simple if we just clicked on the lights and our purpose was just 100% clear. But as we know, it's an ongoing process of revealing it. So what does life look like when your purpose is 10% revealed? What does life look like when it's 40% revealed? What is it like with 80% revealed? So hopefully you've seen that as this has revealed my own journey, and it will continue to. It will continue to clarify that it'll help fill in some gaps for your own journey as well. That's what I got for you. See you next video.